Disputes aren't going to fix everything, right? We have to have a game plan for ourselves, right? Because not everything is going to go away via disputes. We have to understand that things have really changed, like from 2000 and even like 19 until now, 2026, things are much, much differently ran. The amount of technology and AI that's out there, and especially when accounts are with the original creditor, they can verify that the account belongs to you pretty quickly. I mean, you've made payments to them from your bank account. They've sent statements to your home address that did not get returned from the postal office. There's a bunch of different things and ways that they can, verify that the account belongs to you. So in some cases, like, you do have to pay things. And then after you pay it and it's a zero balance, it's going to help you in a few different ways, because number one, it's no longer going to be actively reporting as a derogatory every single month. It's no longer going to report that, deficient balance every single month. It's no longer going to report. It's going to be at a zero. So you can continue to dispute the data to attempts that they'll just take the whole account off, right? That's the hope and goal, because a lot of times they can't fix, or they don't fix, little tiny things. They just take the whole account off of your credit report. If they do happen to fix it, it's like, okay, so be it. It's no longer affecting you in a negative manner because it's a zero balance. So sometimes those type of things have to be corrected, especially if they are with the original creditor, okay? Because it's going to just continue to get verified from that bank to the credit bureaus. And even if, say, you hire a credit repair company and they just do a sweep, something shady, like a lot of these companies do, right? If they get it off, it's probably going to come back. It may have already come back, because that's just what happens. Like, they'll take it off initially, and then maybe 2 months down the road, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we verified that this account belongs to you. We're reinserting it back on your credit report. Well, say you got that account off and it had a zero balance, it would never be reinserted because you don't owe them any money anymore. So they could care less about it. So there's method to the madness. So you definitely have to know that credit repair is simply the process of somebody sending dispute letters out on your behalf to credit bureaus and creditors. That's not a big portion of what's going to change. Your mindset has to change. We have to look at all of these credit factors here, right? All of these credit factors make up your credit score. And derogatory marks is not even really put into the calculation of things. It's a category. We know it affects us in a negative manner, but if you look at the pie chart of how our credit scores are compiled, over 65% is just payment history and credit card usage. That right there, no credit repair company can help you with. You have to know how to do that on your own. And if you're not getting enough positive payments or data to your credit report, nothing's really going to change. So we have to really focus on quality, positive payments that are made on time, while also kind of keeping our credit cards at bay. Less than 10% credit usage, even though if you read on the internet, it says 30. 30 is just way too high. And then we really got to focus on cleaning up those derogatories. I think for you, do you just have one charge off left?
Got probably about maybe 3 or 4.
Are they all relatively low amounts?
Well, one of them is I know 301 or something like that, but that was back from, I think it's Red River Credit Union. So
they're all with them?
No, 2 of them with them, and the other one is a repossession I have, and the other one is like a medical bill I have.
So the medical bill you can fight. That one's probably going to be the easier ones to work on. The repossession, there's not much you can do there. It's just the deficient balance, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and the incorrect dates they got going across our 3 bureaus.
Did they sell the vehicle at an auction?
Yes, they did.
Okay, so then they credited you whatever they sold it for, correct?
I haven't received no letters from them people saying how much they sold it for. I think the last time I spoke to them was like in 21. And the lady that I spoke to, she just basically said they sold it at an auction and some about a balance of 18,000 remaining. But when you look on the credit report, it's like zero. Where it say balance owed, it's zero though.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah, that if it's saying that you don't owe a balance, then that's good. It's not actively reporting, so that's good. I'll have to take a look at your credit reports. Who do you have your credit reports with?
I think I got one with my free score now, and then I got the other one through Credit Hero.
Okay. Something, I don't know if it's my free score now because I think they're the ones that are the same as Smart Credit. Is that correct?
Now, that's a good question. I'm not for sure.
Okay. I don't know. I got something in my email stating that I don't know that it's not going to be available anymore, the My Free Score now. So I don't know what's going on there because I'm pretty sure they're the ones that use Smart Credit. So it's like the same data, but you don't need to pay for like two of those because essentially Credit Hero and My Free Score, they're all like the same. They're just all three reports. The data is probably all the same, but the score is like a Vantage 3.0 score. So they're all the same. And if you're already set up with Credit Hero under Credit Repair Cloud, you might as well just cancel the other one and just use that one.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't have a balance reported with the repo, then it's not actively affecting you, like negatively affecting you right now. And if it hasn't reported anything since 2019, then that's also a good thing because whatever they sold it for at the auction probably paid off that balance that you owed. So that's
Probably one
good.
day this week, I'm gonna try to book a call with you for you to
Yeah, because
talk more about it.
it sounds like you just got a few things, but the most important thing that you should do right now is focus on positive credit trade lines on your credit report. These are ones that you're going to create yourself. You don't need to get authorized users yet until, you've got all those negatives cleared up that are not affecting you. But if you can do like a pledge loan, what credit unions are you with right now?
Right now, I'm currently with nobody. I'm currently using Self. I know you mentioned that a couple times in a call, but I've been
Yeah.
that's like the only thing that I can really just get with right now because everybody they would deny me everywhere else. So
Gotcha. Yeah. So what I would recommend is trying to join like a credit union. What state are you in?
Louisiana.
Okay. So, Navy Federal is one because they're nationwide. I'm not sure of any other like credit unions that come to mind that are, Louisiana based, but PenFed's another one that's nationwide that pretty much anyone can join because basically you want to get with a credit union that offers like a pledge loan so you can just use a couple $100s from your savings account to do a secured savings loan with. It doesn't cost you a hard inquiry, but it's going to report as a positive trade line on your credit report. And then, you could pay 80% of it off. I mean, if it's only a couple $100, it's not really going to be affecting you too much anyways. But the goal would be to have it open for, at least 12 to 24 months, just so you can get those positive payments every month. And, it's going to be from like a credit union. So those are really like quality trade lines and it helps you build the relationship up with that bank as well. So you can apply for credit cards with them in the future once you get ready.
Oh, you said that's PenFed?
Yep, PenFed's good. They are Equifax and Experian. And then Navy Federal is TransUnion. And a lot of people think they can't join Navy Federal because you have to be military, and that's actually not true. You just have to be like associated or family with military. So I actually got in because my grandfather and my uncle were both in the Navy, and I still have, family that's in service. So I had a lot of family that served, but I didn't have any proof. And I just called and I told them that right over the phone. And they're like, yeah, no problem. Like I gave them my family's name and they just got me set up. It was like $5 right over the phone. And it was super easy.
All right. Thank
So
you
you
so
definitely want to get those credit unions started, like 2 credit unions, even if you did PenFed and Navy Federal or DCU and Navy Federal, because these places offer the secured savings loan. Or if you can find another credit union that offers like a credit building loan, right? You want to go that route first. So that way you can get some more positive, like really quality trade lines, not from places like Self or these other banks that normal banks probably like they're not real, or they're not in competition with them, right? But when Chase looks at your credit profile and they're like, oh, Navy Federal, blah, 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 this bank, that bank, they're like, yeah, if they gave them, 20,000, we'll give them 18. So that's really how they look at it, like comparable credit. And those are also their competitors. So of course they want to win your business as well.
I'll check out Paying Fair tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads me into like what we're going to be talking about tonight, guys, is credit repair is a very small factor of the bigger picture, right? All of the different data points that you have to be responsible for as someone who wants better credit, right? Or wants to help other people get better credit. These are the 6 factors. And no matter what platform you're using, whether it's Credit Karma, because this is actually from Credit Karma, and this is one of the things that I really like about Credit Karma is it makes the information easy to understand versus Smart Credit or some of these other platforms that can be a little bit confusing and overwhelming for people. Credit Karma, although it's not the right score, it is really good about keeping you updated about data, maybe things that have just happened, your credit score going up, down, new inquiries. But the credit factors is what we all need to study, right? Because it's going to tell you right there where your issues lie, where you need improvement at, right? And even though, like, say you're looking at someone's Credit Karma and you see derogatory marks at 0, you still have to click into the report and actually see if they have any charged off accounts, because a lot of times I guess you can say flaw with Credit Karma is you'll look at someone's data and it'll say 0 derogatory, and then you'll go into the report and you'll see all of these charged off accounts. So for some reason it doesn't pick up those charged off accounts, but those are still big issues that someone would need to take care of. And I always tell you my take on things when it comes to charge offs with the original creditor. Usually, for the most part, I could say it's going to be a fairly low amount for a lot of people, and if it's a manageable low amount, you can even settle for less. Generally, if you're going to make like a one-time payment to a company, you can generally settle with them for maybe 30 cents on the dollar. Okay. I've seen it a little bit lower. I've seen it a little bit higher. Okay. A one-time payment is going to get you a better settlement offer. Okay. Then you've got settlements with payment plans. And generally places don't like to do more than like 6 months worth of payment plan. And you can pay, a few $100s, but you have to commit to that, because the first time that you miss a payment or mess up, the deal is like off the table. And then guess what? You just made a payment to that account. So it re-ages the account, which starts the time clock over again. Okay, so you got to commit and finish the payment plan, and then they'll update that balance to 0. So it'll no longer be actively reporting as a derogatory anymore. The only account that I do not recommend a settlement offer to is Navy Federal, because they are one of the only banks that I'm really aware of right now where if you don't pay them back in full, they will not extend credit to you in the future. So that's the downside. They do not play when it comes to that kind of stuff. So that's why I tell people don't mess up with them. They will sue you. And, they're a great bank. They have a lot of great opportunity for people. But at the same time, it's like if you mess up with them, they don't play. They want payment back in full. A lot of times they'll waive like the interest, but as long as you pay them the principal balance in full, they're okay with that. And they will accept a settlement offer from you, and I don't know if they will tell you up front or not, but if you do make a settlement offer with them, they won't extend credit to you in the future. Never again. So that's why you always got to pay them in full. Everyone else is way lenient. Like Chase, I had bad blood with them when I went through my journey, and I ended up doing a settlement payment plan with them over like a 6-month period. And they told me too, same thing, like if you mess up this payment plan, the deal's off the table. They extended credit to me about 4 years later on the personal side and on the business side. So some banks are more forgiving than others, obviously. Oh, you got a Navy Federal $8,000 credit increase? Nice. So Navy Federal gave you $8,000 credit limit increase on the cash rewards credit card. It was at $9,100 and now it's at $17,100. loaded. Nice job. Did you do that inside of the app or did you call them? When you get a second, just drop it in the chat or come off mute and share because that's exciting. Oh, you did it inside the app. Did it cost you a hard inquiry? No. Okay, very good. Yeah, we'll see. So nothing's really changed there. They still give decent limits inside of the app and you're not going to get a hard inquiry, which is nice. And when was the last time that you got a credit limit increase? Was this a 3-month wait or a 6-month wait for you? You're good with them and never leave a balance. Yeah, that's good. You spend, but then you pay. Spend, pay, spend, pay. It was 6 months ago. Okay. Yeah. I have kind of seen them stretch it out a little bit. I talked to someone recently, but they've been working with me for quite a few years now, and they've followed my every 3-month rule with the Navy, and it's done them good, but they've had a long relationship with them by now. But I'm starting to see that trend with a lot of banks where they're wanting to see 6 months since the last time you've opened something or requested something. So I would say, just to be on the safe side, like with Navy Federal, when you're asking for your credit limit increases, you might want to give it that 6-month period. Yeah, they've changed that 3-month rule. I know people were getting a little carried away, but I'll tell you that 3-month rule, it got me to 80K pretty quickly. And I'll tell you guys, my first credit card with Navy Federal was only $500. And I was super bummed. I was like, oh my God, this is so disappointing, But then I learned to build the relationship, the pledge loans, and then my next card was like 25K and then another 25K. And I just bumped them up every 3 months. But yes, now it's every 6 months. So make sure that you guys be patient and make sure that 6 billing periods have passed before you ask. And you have 3 pledge loans. Very nice. Yeah. Pay in full with them. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Navy Federal is one of my favorite banks because not only do they have those super high limit credit cards, and when you have those, especially like 2 of them, other banks piggyback off those numbers. And I remember when I had a bunch of $500 credit cards, like that's all that banks ever wanted to give me was like $1,000, $500. But once I started getting those higher limits, that's when I started getting those higher approvals. So, and you really got to build the relationship with the bank. I mean, I've seen people with Navy Federal who did not have a good credit score that have still gotten approved for auto loans and credit cards and things that they truly needed. So they're a great bank and they're absolutely in competition because Navy Federal is the #1 credit union out there. And based on the numbers, they're kind of blowing everyone out of the park right now. Yeah, Chase increased your credit limit from $17,399 to $22,300. Yep, Chase is in competition with them big time. So that's why I always tell people to get the high limits with Navy first and get like 2 cards with them, and then go over to Chase like 6 months later or so, and Chase will piggyback off their limits because Chase, they haven't been like notoriously famous for giving high limit credit cards. Like before I really knew about credit, I think my highest card with Chase was like $3,500, right? But when I went back to them the second time after I had built up my credit profile such, I got, I think 17,000 on the personal side, and it was like 20 something thousand on the business side. And mind you, I used a business that had absolutely nothing. Like business I started and I let sit on a shelf for like 2 years. So I kind of created my own shelf corporation, but no business phone number, no business email, home address, all that stuff. So your profile just needs to have, these solid data points that we're going to be going over, 100% payment history. You got to have your credit utilization, not just your credit utilization at a certain number, but you want to maximize the way that the data is shown. Okay. So you do not want to have a balance. I don't care what the balance is, if it's $2, 50 cents, whatever. You do not want to have a balance on all of your cards. You want to use the all but one is my method, okay? Meaning you have all of your cards at a 0 balance except one. And you have to consider that when you pay something off to 0 sometimes, and it's not used to it, it can potentially drop your score. So if you have a card that has never been at zero, pay it down gradually so you're at 5%, 3%, 2%. So it won't hit you so hard when it goes to zero. Or if that's the card that's going to have a balance, so be it, right? I like to have the largest limit card be the card that has the balance on it. So you only will have a balance on one credit card. All right. And these factors, these are actually my credit score factors. I just took a screenshot of this and put it inside of an ebook because I want, good numbers, right? So my credit card utilization is at 1%. And to be honest with you, I have added authorized users to my credit profile, and a lot of those are still on my credit report to this day. This is my TransUnion credit factor. So I think all of the trade lines that I've ever bought are still on my TransUnion report. So it adds to my overall utilization. So it's nice. I have like $250K available in credit. And so I still have a few $1,000s that are out there on credit cards, but I have so much available. My utilization's only at 1%. Let's see, what were you saying here, Morris? Okay, yep. So yeah, I don't like to leave a balance with Chase either. I like to spend, but then I like to pay in full with them. And since I kind of have it trained like that, my scores don't really drop. The only time my score dropped was when I paid off my Apple Card to zero, because it usually always has like a small balance. Even when it was like $136, it was like 1%. But then when it went to zero, it dropped my credit score. So it kind of sucked. And don't close credit cards either, guys, because that drops your credit score. I know you might be like, forget this card. I don't even want this card. I hate this card. Well, I, don't recommend it unless you have like all of your other cards at 5 years of history or more, because that card, it's probably one of the first cards that you got, has a lot of history on it. So what you do instead is just lock the card inside of your app. Okay. Lock the card so nobody can use that card number, and you can cut that card up and just make sure that if you have any fees, monthly fees, annual fees, that you just pay those so you still have your auto pay set up, and then just let those, on-time payments continue to roll in. Because if you have an annual fee or a monthly fee, the nice thing about that is the bank isn't going to cancel the card due to inactivity because they're making money off of you, right? What happens with these cards like Care Credit, and what happened with my PenFed card last week, was they closed it. And I didn't even know that PenFed had closed my credit card, but it was like one of the oldest cards that I have. It's only a $1,500 balance. So to be honest with you, I have not used that card in, I don't know how long, probably years, like at least 3-4 years. I have not had any transactions on that card. Okay. And they closed it. And I was just like, what the hell? Of course, I got a notification from Credit Karma, and it dropped my credit score on Credit Karma 20 points. And on my FICO app, it dropped my score about 13 points. So I was at an 803 on TransUnion, my FICO. And then now I'm at like a 790. So I was like, man, that sucked. But, it was because of the history. And I just didn't use the card. So when you don't use it, unfortunately, you kind of lose it. So that's why I tell people you still got to put some money on those cards. Care Credit's notorious for that kind of stuff too. And Care Credit's generally a higher limit. So it sucks when those cards close. So yeah, stay away from Affirm. Okay. Affirm and consumer finance accounts, CFA accounts, those are negative in hindsight. Even though you may have paid them on time, they are looked at as a riskier loan, and they are not really like, how do I say this? So even for myself, I did not know that, right? I had got some Affirm accounts years ago, like when they first came out. And I was like, oh my God, this is so easy, right? And that was kind of when I had like not that great credit. And then, I paid them on time. They only reported to Experian. But then when I started getting more established, one of the reasons that I would get for declines was too many consumer finance accounts. So I started started looking into it more, and I was like, wow, all of those consumer finance accounts actually are hurting me. They didn't help me build credit. They hurt me because banks and other financial institutions that are a little bit more conservative, like PenFed, they look at that, well, if you didn't have the money, why'd you buy it? So it's kind of like they're not the best. CFA accounts are consumer finance accounts and can be considered accounts like Affirm, like Afterpay. You know, there are some others out there that are like more like those AI consumer finance accounts and, you know, personal loans. They're just not great to have a bunch of those type of accounts. So that's why a lot of times when someone needs to refinance their debt, I'll tell them, you know, either go through Lightstream because that'll show us like collateral loan, essentially, you get a better interest rate. And they're not considered a consumer finance account. So too many personal loans can help you. Too many of those Afterpay accounts can hurt you. Let's see. So you said it, and it really works just like you say, just leave a balance on one card and that card should be 0% APR. Yeah, for sure. Like right now I use my Wells Fargo card for pretty much everything because I got the Wells Fargo Reflect card, and that card has 21 months of 0% interest. So though the highest zero APR card right now, I believe, is the Reflect card. And then also they have a card from Citibank that has 24 months of 0 APR. So those two on the personal side are really, really good because you can, you know, balance transfer. Most of the time, if you do a balance transfer, you have to do it like right away. But, you know, it'll help you. That's what I had to do for a few different cards, actually. And then Xavier, does Navy combine the limits? You have a 20K and a 500, and the 500 one has been open for a year, and the 20K has been open for 4 months. Oh, I'm not sure if they do that. You're going to have to call them and ask them. It's one of those things that, you know, Chase does, and Bank of America used to. I'm not sure if Bank of America is still doing that or not. Capital One used to do that as well, but they don't do that any longer. So you're going to have to ask them, because which card is the 20K card? Is that like a green cash rewards card or, oh yeah, okay, good. Yeah, Bank of America still, that's good. Okay, so the 20K is the green cash rewards card. And that one has been open for 4 months. Yeah, I am not sure. Definitely call them tomorrow and see if you are able to transfer. I don't know that you are, to be honest with you. I haven't ever heard of anyone doing it with them, but call them and verify, because sometimes I'm surprised, and see if they will, you know, do a balance. If not, you have that $500 card and you can potentially, you know, ask for a credit limit increase on that one. Like I was telling you guys earlier, my first card with Navy Federal was $500 as well. My first card was the American Express card with them. So I don't know. I chose that card because I wanted to get into American Express, and it actually worked. Because I was able to get 5 American Express business cards. And when I got my business cards, it said that I had been with American Express since I got my American Express card with Navy Fed. But between the 3 cards, that card only ever went up to $1,500 because I maxed out with them at 80K. So I have a 40K card, a 38.5, and then my little 1,500 one. That's a good way to get into American Express, is to get the Navy Federal American Express, or to get any American Express branded credit cards. Because I know like Credit One, I believe they changed over to American Express. So then your name and all that will be in their system. Another way that you can kind of get into the American Express ecosystem is by becoming an authorized user. So basically us adding you as an authorized user onto an American Express card. That's happened to a lot of my clients where, you know, after we submit them, like they'll start getting offers in the mail and via email and all that good stuff to join American Express. So that's a good way to go about it as well. To get into their ecosystem, is to either get an American Express branded card. Some people even get the prepaid debit American Express card, because that will get your information into their system. Or if Amex has a card with like Navy or like Credit One, whomever, that'll get you in. or the AU, pretty much. Those are like the main ways. And they're pretty easy to get approved for, to be honest with you. As long as you have a 700 credit score with Experian, you're good. Because I swear, when I first got approved from them, I had applied a few times and was denied. And my credit score was like a 703 or 704 when I finally got approved. And that was from
Oh,
Experian.
okay, cool.
And I did not have any personal credit cards directly with American Express. My only association was that Navy Federal card. And then I got 5 business cards with them.
After you had the personal for a minute?
Yep, I had that American Express card with Navy Federal for probably a couple years beforehand, because I remember seeing like my customer date, because all of your cards will have your like established customer year. And I remember seeing like, I think it was like 2021 or something like that. And I was like, wow, that was the day that I got the Navy Fed American Express card. So I remember hearing somebody say, oh, well, that won't help you. I said, well, I beg to differ, because that was my date with them.
Right. That's the date you got in their system. So yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that's the date I got printed right there on all 5 of my business credit cards, you know? So, but the thing about an American Express is you just have to understand how each card operates, because, you know, American Express, they are a charge card company. Okay. Meaning you pay whatever you spend every single month in full, right? That's how they became so popular. They just recently started introducing the pay over time options, which can get people into a lot of trouble because they rarely have good interest rates on their credit cards. And, you know, if you do get a 0% APR offer, it's not going to be on like one of their great cards. It's probably just on the like business plus card or the business cash card. And that might be for like 18 months at 0%. But all their other cards, you know, you have to consider if it's a charge card, because like the Plum card, it has to be paid in full by 60 days. You got to make a payment at 30 days, but it has to be paid in full by 60 days. So you just have to understand if you have, you know, what your pay over time limit is, why you're getting the card that you're getting. Do you plan to apply on the personal side or the business side?
Well, I guess I'm gonna do the personal side first and then go to the business.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they've got so many different card options. You just got to pay attention to, you know, what's going to be best for you, whether it's travel. A lot of their travel cards do have an annual fee. So you got to pay attention to that because, man, I want to say the platinum membership fee is pretty high now. It was like 7 something. But I think they went up to like $7.95, and that, you know, gets you access into the Cetarian lounges. And you know, if whoever you add as an authorized user, it gets them into the Cetarian lounges as well.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna use it. So yeah, I mean it's gonna be worth it. Like my partner, he uses it for his business. He has a truck company. He has a truck company as well, and he uses
Oh,
American Express for it. But you know the revenue comes in so much that he don't even care about the expenses. He like the
yeah,
perks and everything it has to offer. And then his drivers,
yeah,
they fly a lot. Sometimes they have to leave a truck and fly out. So it works great for him. Yeah, and
yeah.
he don't even have a limit. I don't believe. Like I think last month his bill was like $45,000 last month.
Yeah, some people will not have a like credit limit because their spending history has determined such, right? Your spending like traits will determine a lot with American Express. You might start off one way with them, but then as time goes on, they see how you spend and pay. They might, you know, it might change. That's kind of like how they operate. You know, it's like crazy, but that's just how they are. And, you know, when you initially get your card, they will send you like a bunch of envelopes, and one of those envelopes will tell you what your pay over time limit is, because a lot of cards don't have like a preset spending limit. So you might go and say, well, what if I go try to spend 50,000? Am I going to be pre-approved? And you can like try it inside of their app, but you know, it's one of those cards that really goes off of your spending
Of your
traits.
pattern, right? Yeah,
Yep.
because I was on to my dad's before, and I would do that. I would call in and ask them, you know, about the limits. Like, can I go
Yeah.
for this? Would it charge? I'm like, I don't have a limit. She's like, well, that don't mean you can go charge $1 million. I'm like, well, she's like, I can run it through and try it. So she would try it. I'm like, okay, drive for 10,000. Okay, it'll go through, certain things. But my dad, he spent money like that. So
Right.
it
Mm-hmm.
went off his pattern. She like, it goes off
Yep.
the pattern of how you spend. So I was like,
Yep. For
okay, just
sure.
curious. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yep.
was in college and everything. So, I was trying to see what the limit was,
Nice.
Okay, cool, cool.
Yeah, $8.95 for that platinum fee now. Boy, oh boy. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, jeez. But hey, if you're using it, it's totally worth it because these Satarian lounges, they give you free food, free drinks. It's a nice place to sit and enjoy yourself while you're waiting for, your flights and all that good stuff. So if you travel a lot, it is worth it.
yeah. I used to use my dad's, and I used to get like tickets. I would get sports tickets before a lot of people, concert tickets. Ticketmaster let American Express members buy them, and then everybody else. Yeah, it's got a lot of perks with it. A lot of perks with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
A lot of
But
perks.
they have so many different, different cards now, and I'll tell you, they've got the personal side, they've got the business side, and they have like, just to kind of depending on what your lifestyle's like, that
Yeah, I'm about to dig into them. I'm just waiting to get these. Like I was telling you on last week on Friday. I'm waiting to get these late payments off from 2 years ago, and then I'm going to go in. I know they don't like seeing no late payments, so I'm about to get these.
yeah,
Try to get them to fix these, correct this error, and then I'm going to go in to the pay my cars down, and then go and get into the family with them. I don't go
yep,
there with anything, any negatives or anything on there.
yeah. And what you may want to do, we have some of the trade lines that are with American Express that are pretty cheap, maybe
Yeah, I'm
even
about to get
grab
two of
one
them
of
from you.
those for like two
Yeah, I'm about to grab
months.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think we have a few like higher limit ones,
Seen
but
one for like 50,000 on there, y'all had. I think I seen a 50,000 one I wanted to get it. I seen another one for Chase
yeah,
for like 45,000. Well, I'm trying to
yeah,
offset
there's
the.
like 40,
Yeah.
35K, and those ones are pretty inexpensive. I have like a 62,000 one too, but honestly, I think, starting out, I tell people if this is your first round of trade lines, 25 to 40K is more than enough. You're not going to really see the benefit if you add a higher limit because, credit is all about progression.
Mhm. When I'm a big part, I'm probably set up a private call with you this week. I want you to look at his profile,
Okay.
and you could tell me, where to go with it. Because, like I told you, the highest one is on there is a Navy for 20,000. But I got a few other. I'm about to before I make this purchase with you. I would like you to tell me like which ones be the best.
Yeah, I
That
think
I should
that's
get.
a good idea because a lot of people like, they'll make decisions on their own. And sometimes I don't know if they understand. Like last week, I had a gentleman that bought an American Express trade line, but the statement date had just passed. So I was like, hey, I want to make sure that you understand this is not going to post until February.
Mhm.
And he was okay with that. So that it all worked out.
Yeah, I'm gonna work that part. Another thing, yeah, I guess I'll just talk to Mom about. But I want to know, like, as far as like personal loans, you think SoFi is one of the top ones to go to? I was thinking about getting
I
a
like
personal loan to pay
SoFi.
the
I
credit
just
cards
got
down.
35,000 with them with no
Hmm.
documents or no nothing. And that was because I just built a relationship with them. I opened
Right.
up a checking account and a savings account. I had a small direct deposit of like a couple $100 go in there every 2 weeks. And I just let the money sit. I did not use my debit card. I literally just let it sit and marinate every single month.
How long do you have them for?
About 6 months.
Okay.
Yep, and they pulled from Experian and from TransUnion. Now, SoFi is, one of those banks that, relatively speaking, like history-wise, primarily pulled from Experian, okay? But I'm here to tell you that that has changed. Just like how Chase has started pulling from Experian and TransUnion, in certain territories, SoFi is doing the same exact thing. So they absolutely did pull my credit. And this was, let me see, I'm not sure exactly what date it was, but it was recent. It was
Yeah, I
definitely,
remember you telling me. Yep. I remember you.
mm-hmm.
I was you telling me. Yep. Yep. Can you
Yeah,
force them to pull
12/28.
TransUnion only?
What's that?
Can I force them to pull a TransUnion?
It may, they may not like that, because what I did with them was I started getting offers from them like, months prior or whatnot. So finally I got an offer from them and it said, well, come see what you're pre-approved for, how much you're pre-approved for. So I went through their pre-approval process and it kind of came out with like, all right, 50K would be this. And I was like, well, let me just select 35K because I don't want to have to provide any documents. And I just want this to kind of like be a smooth process. So I selected 35K. And then once it was like, okay, we're going to pull your credit, that's when it triggered the credit pulls from Experian and TransUnion. So I'm afraid that if they're not able to access it, they may deny you,
Okay. I just wondering. I know TransUnion is a little stronger. Just wondering.
Well, if TransUnion is stronger, then you should go after Lightstream because Lightstream is generally only going to pull from TransUnion. Navy Federal is only going to pull from TransUnion. They have
Lightstream
personal
denied me.
loans. What's that?
Lightstream denied me for some reason. I'm like,
Oh, they denied you?
yeah, twice. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I had a 7. The first time I tried them, I had a 767 on my TransUnion. That's what but you know what? The card was new. My Navy Federal was new. The
Well, what were the
$20,000 card was
reasons
new.
why they gave you? Because when they deny you, you should have received your denial letter saying what your credit score was and the reasons they denied you.
One of them said too many new accounts,
Okay, that's why they denied you.
and then it said no installment accounts.
Okay. So usually the first and second reason are like the primary reasons why they denied you. So what that means is they're very sensitive to accounts opened in the last 6 months, especially Lightstream. So you want to let 6 months go by before you apply with, them again. 6 months go by on like whatever current accounts you have open. So you have at least 6 months of on-time payments reported to the credit bureaus. Okay. 𝒓𝒊𝒕 pulled from Experian and TransUnion for me. I'm in California. Normally they just pull from Experian, but that was a new one for me because even my client that got 100,000 from 𝒓𝒊𝒕 last year, he was in Chicago. They only used Experian for him. So this is kind of new. And then
Is there anybody that's not sensitive to? I'm sorry, let me cut you off.
that's okay. Catherine, I'll get to your question in just a second. But Navy Federal, they're all pretty sensitive to like new accounts. Are you with Navy Federal?
Yeah, someone Navy too.
Okay. And when's the last time that you opened anything with them?
September.
September. Okay. You should be okay as long as you've like been with them for a while. You can go to Navy Federal and ask them for a loan. They have a few different loan options with Navy Federal. They have like what's the loan going to be for you?
To pay off the credit cards.
Okay, so they do have a debt consolidation loan. It's best to call over the phone with them and apply because some of these actually require it, but that way you don't kind of get lost in their system. So let me see here. They do have a debt consolidation loan because I just had another client who did that same thing. He had to get a debt consolidation loan, pay off the credit cards. So right here, you can do a personal expense loan, which will go up to $50,000, and you can use it for auto repairs, moving, relocation, vacations, and other major expenses. Okay, so that's up to 50K. All right, not bad. And then you've got the home improvement loan, which, you can use collateral to back this one up if you needed to. It says no collateral required, but if you have collateral, you can use it to help you get approved. And then they also have their debt consolidation loan, which is 50,000. So I would, if this is truly for debt consolidation, I would just let them know that you're applying for a debt consolidation loan. And you do have to call to apply over the phone for most of these type of loans, like the debt consolidation loan, the home improvement loan. You'll see here just the personal expense loan you can do online. So definitely will need to call them. They're only going to pull from TransUnion. You just want to make sure that you don't have any fraud alerts or consumer statements on TransUnion that say, hey, call me to verify before approval.
Okay, that's what's stop. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
cool. Okay,
So they
everything else
should
I
be
just.
able to help you with that.
Okay, cool. Okay,
And
I'll
then
make sure
that'll
I put
give you an installment loan, right? And then I think what you'll need to do is, do a pledge loan with Navy Federal, because it sounds like you might be a little light on the installment side, which is why Lightstream denied you. So if you can add one to your profile, yeah, it's a new account, but it's also going to be an additional, installment loan that you can use from Navy Federal, or if you have another credit union that does like pledge
Yeah, I
loans or
want to. Yeah, I
secured
did Navy. I
savings.
did my Apple. Remember you told me I did my Apple the other day after you told
Oh
me.
yeah, okay,
I did my
good.
Apple MCU and I did my Navy as well. I did both.
Good, good. Okay, perfect. So you've got those brewing. So those will be
Yeah.
2 installment loans. So that's perfect. And then, just see if Navy can do the debt consolidation loan for you. And I think you'll be in good shape.
Because I have an installment. My mortgage is not reporting on my TransUnion. I told
Right.
you
I remember
before.
you saying that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
when you went through credit repair, this is a prime example of them not updating the data, but just removing the
The
entire
whole account.
account.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I wrote them a letter. I wrote my mortgage company a letter telling them it's not reporting to TransUnion. So I guess they're going to fix it.
They're going to reinsert it. Yeah, you got to
Yes.
ask them to reinsert it because the credit bureau has blocked it from your credit report, and hopefully they can get it back
Hi,
in there.
Okay. All right. Go. I'll private call you. I guess other people probably want to ask questions. I'll private
Yeah,
call you.
yeah. So let me
Okay.
answer the questions that we have in the
Okay.
chat real fast. Catherine asked, should we focus on American Express personal cards or business cards? It's really a preference for you, but here's kind of like my take on it. The American Express business credit cards are not going to report to your personal credit. So if you plan to use them heavily for business expenses, I think it would be better to get the business cards, because that way you don't have to worry about the utilization affecting you. As long as you pay your minimum due to them, stay in good standing with them, you're good to go. And if you can use one of their personal cards, like if you want to get it because you like to travel or there's a good welcome bonus, then by all means, you certainly should, because they have a lot of good cards that, could benefit someone that travels a lot. You can check it out right here on their website. But for me, I was using them for business purposes. So I got all 5 on the business side. And you can get actually more than 5 total cards with American Express, because they are pretty, I would say lenient in regards to social security numbers. So one person, and I want to say, I don't know if this has changed. So many things are changing, but you used to be able to get up to, I want to say like 24 or 25 cards that were supported by your social security number. So you could get cards for different businesses, different LLCs, and your personal. So your social security number could guarantee for up to like 25 cards, like some of them charge cards, some of them, pay over time cards. So, that would be a great thing too. And as far as their business credit cards, I really like their gold card for business because of the fact that you get 4 times the points on your 2 highest spend categories. So for me, I was running ads at that time, but I also have a lot of shipping expenses like stamps and, all that kind of stuff. So I was putting all of my spend on my gold card and, making pretty good on the rewards. It is a $395 annual fee, or actually, I'm sorry, $375 now. So most of these cards that have the really good, points, they are going to have some sort of annual fee, but they do have some cards that don't. They have the blue cash card that does not have an annual fee, and it has a nice welcome offer. Unfortunately, the welcome offer now is only 12 months. I said 18, but these welcome offers do change frequently. So if it's not something that you're like, I'm like, I can wait, keep an eye on it. Once they see you poking around on their website and you sign up to be on their mailing list, you're going to start getting offers from them. And you can even negotiate things with them, which is kind of funny because if you're on their website, they've got this little chat box down here and you can ask the rep, hey, I saw a different offer online. If you can match that offer, then I'd be willing to sign up for the welcome offer, because their goal is to bring more people in. So you can kind of negotiate welcome offers a little bit with them and see if they can match whatever, you're wanting, which is kind of cool. And then we got the Business Plus card, which they're down to 12 months too, but that's how a lot of these places are. The whole 18-month, 2-year, 0 APR is really far and few in between. I think the only ones that are still left at a solid 18 months are like Elon Financial. So, but you've got the Delta card, the Plum card. Just be aware of the Plum card because it is a charge card and it still has an annual fee. Every year I say I'm going to cancel this card and I never do. I need to cancel it like this week because I just don't use it. And I pay $250 a year. The green card, I have this one as well. It's a $95 annual fee. And I use this as a charge card as well because the interest rates are just crazy. The pay over time APR. So a lot of these cards, they were designed to be charge cards. So that's kind of what you're going to get if you don't pay it in full. You're going to pay that really high interest rate. But they have the Amazon. If you shop a lot for Amazon on your business or Hilton, Marriott, so they got a lot of good options. And again, they're pulling from Experian. And on the business side, they didn't ask for any proof. I wouldn't get crazy with the numbers, but the way that American Express approves you is, obviously your personal information, your personal credit report with Experian, but also the revenue for your business. So they are going to give you a limit kind of based off of your revenue, essentially, right? If your spending shows differently, they will adjust it to match your spending trends. So I always tell people when they're first starting off with American Express, try to put as much of your spend on that card and pay it like weekly, right? Because you want to spend a lot, but you also want to pay often because you don't want it to build up too high. And you want to kind of let them get a feel for your spending habits so that way they can increase your credit limits because they're really easy to get, high credit limits with them, especially like on the personal side. So that way you can have, more high limit cards to show banks like, hey, American Express, they trusted me with 30,000. You should too, kind of having that comparable credit. But unfortunately, the business side, it's not going to report to your personal credit. So even if you did have high limits, those business cards don't report. And even if someone, added you as an authorized user to a business credit card, it's not going to report, so it's kind of like good because it's like hidden debt. Essentially, it doesn't report to Dun & Bradstreet. They don't report to Experian. I've had a few people tell me that they've seen their American Expresses on their SBFE, but then I had a lady that I spoke to recently who was upset because her American Express cards weren't on anything. So it's very odd how American Express works. It's like kind of like I said, like hidden debt. But if that, helps your business, by all means, go for it. Yeah, absolutely. So Morris, you have a bankruptcy still on Experian, but it's removed from the other two bureaus and you're just working on removing it from Experian. Okay, yeah. So probably want to just keep Experian locked for now because you don't want anyone to pull it. So you've got Lightstream as an option. And there's a few other, like Upgrade. They generally use TransUnion. You want to focus on quality quality, right? You want to really try to get those like credit union, Tradelines, Truist, I mean, not Truist, but Lightstream, they're owned by Truist. So they're not a bad option either. And they would pull just from TransUnion. But if you can get something with Navy Federal, that would be great as well, because they are always well known to other banks. And then just keep your Experian locked just in case someone gets like, oh, let's just take a peek at Experian. But if you are still working on getting, obviously you are, you just said that, right? But I would recommend, if Experian is the last one, get a copy of your credit reports, take a screenshot of it, okay? And highlight that you are you've got me mixed up, or you've got something going on, because there's no way that I have a bankruptcy. It should not be reported. You can see here the other two reporting agencies do not have any bankruptcy reported. Please remove this error, right? And upload that online, and then call in maybe about a day or so later and speak to someone, preferably like a supervisor, and try to get them to get that off of your credit report. Because at this point, you can kind of piggyback off the other two and say, look, Experian, or not Experian, but TransUnion and Equifax, they are not reporting a bankruptcy against me at all, but yet you are. So where in the world did you get this data from? How did you verify this data? Experian gets their bankruptcy data from LexisNexis. So have you disputed the bankruptcy with LexisNexis?
Yeah, I just recently just did that too.
Okay. Okay, good.
LexisNexis, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, keep the LexisNexis like locked for now, so that way they can't go back and try to verify it on the report. And a lot of times they won't do it anyways. They'll just say, well, we verified it because we initially got it from them. But of course, they're never going to say that to somebody. So you have to just keep pressing them on it. And a lot of times, they ignore like letters lately for whatever reason. I've sent them letters from my home address, and they've sent me a response saying that they thought it was sent from somebody else or something like that. We received something, but we don't think it was from you. So I recommend uploading all of your stuff to them directly from Experian Upload, so that way have it from your IP address. They have all of that stuff recorded, and you can send them all of your proof documents. Like when you get to the second page here where you can upload proof, you want to make sure that you upload like your ID, your social security card, proof of address that's dated like within the last like 45 days or so, like the newest, like either utility statement or some statement, some form of statement. It doesn't need to show all of like the data. It just really needs to be that top half that has like the company name, the logo, your name, your address, like the date, the statement period, like all that kind of stuff, where they can verify, okay, this is an official statement. Because I've had people where they've like sent me a picture of the piece of mail as proof, and that's just not going to work for them. They have to actually see that it's dated and see the actual statement. So ID must not be expired, social security card, proof of address, along with your, brief explanation, which me personally, if you're doing this just for yourself, I would probably just hand write a letter to them and use the data exactly how it is listed on your Experian credit report. So log into Experian and copy exactly how they have it listed on your credit report. If it's got X's, O's, whatever, copy it exactly how they have it listed and use that account data in your letter and let them know that this is an error in reporting and that you demand that it be removed immediately, and that you've attached proof that the other reporting agencies have not and have never had a bankruptcy reported for you either. So you're afraid that they may have mixed you up with somebody else or something simple like that.
Yeah, I was getting, I just actually doing it myself this time. I was successful because I was working with another credit repair company, and they wasn't doing what they was doing. So once I actually got the TransUnion and Equifax removed, then now I'm just starting on the Experian too as well, because I've been working on other client files too as well, and I have a team.
Look at you.
We got a team now to where that we actually work on files together. I took your note of basically what you said about hiring some other people from over in the Philippines and things.
Yeah.
And I ended up coming across some very, very, very highly talented people that help deal with credit repair. So now with my company, we've been knocking them out left and right. We've been getting results in like 11 days.
That's so awesome.
So it's been pretty cool.
Gosh, so you got all these results for yourself. You paid a company. They did not get anything removed for you.
Yeah, I paid a company, to do it. I paid $3,500 to get my credit.
Did you just say $3,500?
$3,500. Yeah, sure did.
Which is illegal, guys. Okay, that is totally uncalled for and illegal to pay $3,500 for credit repair. Like, that's absurd. People are not supposed to be charging that much, because at the end of the day, what you can expect from these credit repair people is the bare minimum. Sending letters to the credit bureaus and, those that are furnishing information to the credit bureaus at best, like even if they will do that, but most of them do the bare minimum, which is just send the dispute letters to the credit bureaus to dispute the information. And a lot of times when you just get those cookie cutter letters, you're going to get cookie cutter answers. They're going to send you those stall tactic letters. Hey, we got something, but we don't think it's from you.
Yeah. Yep. In that same company, I mean, they actually, he's actually going through a lawsuit right now too, as well. Anyway, just due to the fact of he ended up telling the client of his that, instead of actually just paying off, one of her debts, he talked her into actually getting a trade line, and it went south. Yeah, it went south. So
wow.
And that's what, and it was through basically one of the people that actually was working. It was kind of funny because one of the people that was working with him and that was like working close to him and was trying to basically get away from him. And he was a person that was working, that had just came in and was working on my file, and we had this conversation that just basically came up, and we just got to talking about credit repair. He seen I was very knowledgeable, he was very knowledgeable, and we ended up coming together and teaming up like that. And
nice.
That's how we're getting all this stuff, knocked out.
Yeah.
So it the bad, I guess, paying that $3,500 came to a point to where it came good at some point.
Right. I feel like sometimes when you go through things, you have to look at the lesson that was learned through the whole experience, and that's kind of what I did when I paid for credit repair companies. But I actually had got a refund from one of the companies that I paid, because I was with them for like 8 months and like nothing was happening, and I didn't understand what I was paying for or what they were doing. And, they ended up just refunding me my money because they really didn't do anything, And that's when I said, I got to learn this stuff myself, because these companies, like, I don't know what they do. And just like you experienced, $3,500 for pretty much like nothing, just to get sold.
Some things came off, but then, they came right back. They ended up coming right back. So then,
like I was just telling you guys, when companies use shady methods like such, because when someone's charging like $3,500, you can like pretty much they're selling you on like a credit sweep or something like fast, right? And they make it sound good. And while they may have gotten those same results for someone in the past, it doesn't mean that they're going to get those same results for you or for anyone else for that matter, So they can't guarantee any type of one result. And you can clearly see like that's what their intention was, is to try to get people fast results, which initially they came off, but then they came back on once they actually had the time to investigate. So it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I do a client I do a client intake form with all my clients now when they come on, because I tell them straight up, I was like, if I do that for a reason, because if I feel like that I can't help you, I'm not going to just try to take your money and try to do anything with you.
Yeah,
It's not.
I have to look at everyone's credit file or credit reports before they sign up, because I have had people that have signed up in the past and I'm like, you don't need credit repair. Like you don't need really like anything but like maybe a trade line. Like they didn't have anything, nothing. So what I ended up doing was just using the money that they paid for credit repair and put that towards a trade line for them, because there was nothing on their file. And especially people that like we know or that comes from like family or friends, I tell them, look, I don't know if I'm going to be able to help you, because I have to look at your report first and see what all you have going on, because some people just need to pay their debt. Some people I cannot help. Like, for example, I had a lady come to me, and I've known her for a long time. And so she actually used to do my hair. She was my hairdresser for a long time until she retired. And she now runs like group homes. She purchased properties and does like group homes out of them for like homeless people or people that are medically challenged that need, room and board. Nonetheless, she got herself into some credit card debt. And when I looked at her credit reports, it was like every card that she had was maxed out. And she's like, I need credit repair. I need credit repair. And I'm like, look, you do not need credit repair. You have to get some debt paid. I said, look, the first thing that you need to do is pay your debt. After you've paid your debt, then we can see, what, if anything, we can clean up. But at this point, she had just started like talking to a debt consolidation company, and they had told her to stop paying her bills, because that's how, they work, is if you stop paying and it becomes a charge off, they'll be able to settle it for a lot less. And I told her, I said, I wish you would have never done that, because now all of your credit accounts are going to get late payments and everything's going to go haywire. So either you have to let them all charge off to get a lower settlement offer, or, you got to pay it what you owe now. So she's going to just let everything charge off. And I told her, once everything charges off, call them one by one and make a settlement for, 20, 30 cents on the dollar and try to make a one-time payment. And that's exactly what she's going to do. I told her, don't spend any money on credit repair. Credit repair cannot help you, because it can maybe get those accounts off of your credit report. But as long as they're reporting with a balance, like every month, you're going to be holding your breath to see if that account returns. It's only a matter of time in most cases. Sometimes I see them go away and not come back, but a lot of times, especially nowadays, with the amount of technology that's out there, they end up returning, right? And I had a client recently that was taken to court, and they were like, well, this account's not on my credit report. Doesn't matter if it's not on your credit report. People can, or, companies can still sue you and take you to court as long as you're within that statute of limitations, which, every state is a little bit different, but it's usually somewhere between like 4 and 6 years for most states. Like California is 4 years. So from the first time that I became delinquent on an account, they would have 4 years to actually sue me for the contract debt. And after that, they can't sue me for it, but they can still report it on my credit report for, another 3 years per se. So it's a long process, but sometimes I feel like it's better to just pay it or resolve it. That way it can't come back and bite you in the rear end. And, it's done. You don't have to worry about it. But let's go over these factors again, guys, because these are really, really important factors. And, no matter if you use MyFICO, Credit Karma, whatever, Credit Karma is a great free tool to use. And the reason why I like all of these different monitoring companies is because I can compare the data and make sure that it's correct. For some reason, I have a client that has, I want to say it's Identity IQ and then MyFICO. And whenever I look at the two, they're always different. The inquiries on MyFICO, he only shows one inquiry on across all 3 credit reports with my FICO, and we just updated it. It's crazy. And then I just updated his identity IQ, and he's got like 5 or 6 inquiries, and they're all like the old ones that have already said they've been deleted. So it's kind of weird sometimes when you look at different data sources, but it's also a good thing. So that way you can just make sure that, it is removed and, figure out what's what. But the bottom line is these are the 6 main categories that we all have to be focused on, because credit repair cannot fix your ability to pay on time, and your basically willingness to, we can't set up auto pay for you. All right. Everyone should have auto payment set up for at least the minimum amount due. Okay. We have to. It is 2026. And I cannot tell you how many times I have talked to clients where they're like, oh, I got to pay that bill. I got to pay that bill. And they end up paying it late. So they get a late fee. Okay. They got to pay double. And then it's like, for what? We have to get out of that mindset. We have to set up auto payment for the minimum, and then we can pay extra as we spend or as needed, right? But that way you don't risk getting a late payment. And again, a late payment will not report unless it's 30 days past the due date. So I had a gentleman that I was working with maybe last year, and I'll tell you, we had just got done with everything on his credit, and he was up to 700. And then all of a sudden he told me that he was behind on his Capital One credit card. And I was like, oh my God, you got to make that payment. You have to become current. And he made the payment on that 30th day past the due date. And they reported him 30 days late, and it dropped his credit score significantly. And he was crushed, and so was I, because we had worked so hard to get him to that point, and he was finally seeing 700 plus. And then that one little late payment hit, and it just it brings it all down. So it's super heart-wrenching. And honestly, it's just unnecessary, okay? We have to be committed to all of these bills that report to our credit. The bills that we have wiggle room with, electricity, water, a lot of those companies, utility companies, will be more understanding, and we can set up payment arrangements with them. And some banks are as well, but you still have to make that minimum, and you don't want to have to pay extra for that late fee. So set up everything, get that 100% payment history, especially for the last 2 years. I can understand things happen, and, maybe at one point we weren't as committed to our credit as we are now. But now that we're super committed, we have to make sure everything that we pay is on auto pay. Have your direct deposit or whatever, make sure it covers that. So adjust the dates as you need to, and also set up your overdraft protection. So have a little cushion in your savings account just in case, unexpected expenses happen. So that way, if the bank goes to pull the funds and they're not there, you won't get an overdraft, but you'll just get those funds pulled from the savings account. The savings account will cover it. It's automatically, which is way better than getting an overdraft in your bank account. So make sure that's set up. And then for your, and another thing, just a disclaimer, it is very hard to correct late payments. All right. For those of you that have late payments and have gone through this, it is extremely hard. It is probably the hardest thing when it comes to credit repair, is correcting late payments. And while, even myself, I've corrected late payments in the past, and I've helped people correct late payments in the past. But does that mean that everyone is going to have the same result? No. Okay. So late payments, we just have to avoid making them, because at the end of the day, there is a chance that they might not be corrected. And we don't want to poke too much, because if you have late payments like on a credit card and you're constantly disputing the account, the bank might just close the credit card. I've seen that happen on a few occasions. So we don't really want to take that risk. Loan, they're not going to close. Who cares, right? But the next factor is going to be our credit card usage. This is the credit utilization. All right. Loans, personal loans, auto loans, things that we pay in installment every month do not count inside of this category. All right. The usage is calculated with only credit card and revolving accounts. So that's usually credit cards and lines of credit. So if you get a line of credit and you withdraw the entire limit, say it's 10,000, you take out 10,000. Now that's a problem because that utilization is going to be at 100%, and that would really drop someone's credit score, especially when it's new. So overall, we want to be less than 15%, but we really don't want to have a balance on every single account that we have. Now, obviously, installment loans, they'll have a balance. That's normal. When you pay it off, it'll close. And paying off installment loans early is not going to help increase your credit score. In fact, when installment loans close, they can potentially drop your credit score because now that account is closed, you're no longer going to have that on-time payment reported every month. A lot of people have that, misunderstanding where they think, well, if I pay off my car loan, that'll help improve my credit. No, it won't. Actually, it'll help your debt to income ratio. But as you can see from the credit factors, debt to income ratio is not a part of your credit score calculations. So the calculation is the credit card usage, right? The revolving credit usage. So between payment history, which is 35% of your score, and credit card usage, which is 30%, that's 65% right there between two categories that only you have control over. Nobody in credit repair can, determine your payment history but you. Nobody in credit repair can determine how much usage you have on your credit cards or lines of credit but you. Okay? Now, when we get to the third factor, which, to be honest, doesn't necessarily have its own category where there's a certain percentage, right? It's kind of included in the payment history, to be honest, because these are negative payments usually, but derogatory marks, collections, charge-offs, bankruptcy, anything that's a derogatory, all right? And while it's not a direct, calculation, it still affects you in a negative way. So we want to try to clean up as many of the derogatory marks as possible. And credit repair, this is essentially their category. And as you can see, that category really doesn't have its own, calculation in the score. Yes, it helps when those things are removed, but there's so many other factors and moving parts that, it's a very small portion of things, right? So everyone has to work together in order for it to all come to form, right? And you have to be educated and understand what's needed from your end because you do need credit card usage, right? So if you don't have any credit card usage, it's just like having, bad usage. You have to have it on there so banks can see that you know how to manage your credit. You can pay on time, right? That's the most important thing. A lot of people get scared with credit cards because maybe they've had a bad relationship with them in the past, or, they've had a bad experience. They got themselves in debt, which can very easily happen. But we have to have the mindset going into this that this is not my money. I have no intention on spending this money unless it's an emergency. I have self-control, and I understand that these are a tool to get me to the next level. These are a tool, and I understand some tools can hurt you. They can harm you, but it's important to me to have a good relationship and use this tool to be able to leverage and grow and, get to that next level, because you have to show your ability to pay on time over time. And there's no easier way to do that than with a credit card, especially if you just use it a few times a month for, normal things that you would, use your debit card for, right? And then you pay your debit card funds directly to your credit card. And when you are not using your credit card, you keep it locked inside of your app. All right. that's going to protect you, because one thing that really damages your relationship with a, bank or financial institution is making like claims that transactions were unauthorized, right? So that really, really damages things for you. So just to avoid all of that stuff, you want to keep your cards locked inside of the app. This still will allow like your auto drafts to go through, but it's really easy because say you're at the grocery store and you're like, okay, I'm about to use my card. Open the app, unlock it. It's instantly unlocked, ready for use right then and there. There's no delay. And then when you're done with it, lock it back up. So that way you have total control of it. And then you pay all of your cash that's in your checking account that you would have normally spent on your debit card right to your credit card. So you start having that healthy relationship, because most of us know better. We can't overspend on our debit card because it's not there. But for some reason, a lot of that mindset goes to the left when we think about a credit card, even though it shouldn't. We should look at it the exact same, because this is not our money. We're going to have to pay it back. And it's really important for us now to have a healthy relationship and not be tempted to overspend on things that we can't afford. That's just the bottom line. And sometimes it takes that like minute to kind of think about it and it's like, is this something that I truly can't live without right now? Right? Or is this something that I don't really need? I'm just like buying on impulse. Sometimes you kind of have to go to the side and have that conversation with yourself and, already have that mindset, because it's definitely a mindset type of thing, especially for those that love to spend. Like me, I am a spender. Okay. I can't just go to the mall and not like buy something. It's really hard for me. So I really had to train my brain that, if I don't have the money in my checking account ready to transfer over to my credit card, then I'm not going to buy it, and that's just simple as it. Because I don't want to get myself into debt. I don't want to, misuse my credit cards. So it's really important that you have that mindset and, always thinking about, how can I improve my credit? Like, what are the factors that I can use to improve my credit? Looking at these numbers here, obviously credit age and hard inquiries are the areas of improvement. But, age just takes time. You can add authorized user trade lines to increase your age, which is why they kind of call it piggybacking, right? But for me, I would probably need to add a trade line that has 20, 30 years worth of history in order for it to, make a dent on my credit report. And that's just not a priority right now, because honestly, 5 years is pretty good. And I've added a lot of new accounts lately, and I've also lost some accounts lately. So even though they're saying, hey, this is an area of improvement, this is kind of fair, credit age is 15% of your credit score. So it's still a contributing factor, yet you are the only one that has control over that, right? And that's why we want to keep our accounts open for as long as possible. So even when we get these, pledge loans, secured loans, credit builder loans, credit cards, we don't want to just keep them open for 6 to 12 months. If we're going to open something and, we took the time to actually open this account, you need to think of longevity. We're looking for 24 months, right? Because the average score looks back 24 months. FICO 10, which is out, and some banks are even using, like US Bank is using FICO 10, they are looking at the last 48 months. So it's even more important now to have those accounts that are open for a minimum of 4 years. All right. So you really want to be strategic about what you open, the cards that you open. You want to make sure that, you can get as much history on those as possible, because one thing that you also kind of have to think about is this a card that's been with this bank forever? Because if it's just like a newly introduced card, like for example, I got the Wells Fargo Built card. And that was a bad decision because it wasn't a long-standing card with Wells Fargo. And now what are they doing? They're changing it. So that Built card is being closed with Wells Fargo. So that's going to be another account that was closed. And I can either get a Wells Fargo, another card with them, or I can apply for the Built 2.0 card, which either way is going to be a brand new account. So when you're working on those core, credit cards, you want to go with major banks that have had those cards for a while, like Navy Federal, the Green Cash Rewards card, or the flagship card. Chase, look at some of their cards that have been around for a while. Bank of America, you don't want to go with these brand new cards that one day, might go away because it sucks. It closes them and then it affects your history. But you're going to want to get like 4 to 6 credit cards, 4 to 6 really solid credit cards. And, when I think about these 4 to 6, I think about, sometimes people have to get credit builder cards, like that are secured credit cards, or like a Credit One, or, one of those type of cards that's just not the greatest, but they needed something. Like, I get it. We're not going to count those type of cards in our 4 to 6. In our 4 to 6, I'm thinking about high limits, good banks that other banks well recognize them, look at them as if they're comparable credit, because that's what we need. We need those Bank of Americas, Chase, Navy Federal, other credit unions with solid limits and, a nice history of at least 2+ years. And then, once you have those core 4 to 6 credit cards that have had some history to them, you can then think about getting rid of some of those crappy cards that you got initially. I've had to do that over the years. I waited until all my cards were about 5 years old, and then I started plucking away at the First Progress card, the Open Sky. Like, I got rid of a lot of those cards. I think the only one that I have left that I'm kind of scared to close because it's got so much history is the Credit One. And they keep offering me a credit limit increase, which is just a trap, to be honest with you. Because every month they charge, I think it's $8 just to have the account, which is ridiculous. So eventually, you don't want to have those type of accounts. You really want to focus on quality banks, higher limits, adding a couple high limit, high credit history, credit trade lines, whether it's from a friend, family member, or if you have to invest and buy it, right? Sometimes it's just worth it because you can guarantee that it's going to have 100% payment history. The person is not going to have more than a 15% credit utilization. Because sometimes when you get on families cards, I've seen this a lot where they don't say anything, but all of a sudden the credit limit or the credit usage starts rising, and then it's not going down. And next thing you know, you've inherited an 80% utilized credit card from a family member. So you don't want that. It's better just to get those off, or sometimes just buy it because it's like a business transaction, unless it's like mom or dad or, grandma. They don't really use the card too much, but it's got a perfect payment history and decent limits. That can really help you. And think about if you're developing that for your children, right? We're doing this strategically so we can develop these 4 to 6 core cards that are solid, have a solid history, solid credit limits, and then we can add our children or family members that we want to benefit on our cards as an authorized user. Because think about what that would do for someone who's 18, 21 years old. I mean, they would have a 750 credit score in no time, right? So it is really like very strategic that we're going to do this and build it up, because that's going to help you benefit others as well in the long run, right? As far as the total accounts, this is kind of your credit mixture, right? So this is showing, hey, I can handle installment loans, but I can also handle revolving accounts. And together, this is about 10% of your credit score. So you want to have a nice mixture, 4 to 6 core cards, 2 to 4 installment loans. Not all of those need to be open, but again, we're building comparable credit so that way when we go and apply for things that we might need in the future, we'll get approved. auto loans, personal loans. You can do some pledge loans or secured savings loans with credit unions mainly. Or if you just need to add more, installment loans to your profile to beef it up, you can intentionally go get a personal loan from either Lightstream or SoFi or a credit union. And the best way to go about it is to establish a bank relationship with them first, even though it's not required, right? It's not required to have a bank relationship with SoFi, but me knowing how funding is and how it works these days, especially here in like 2026, it's a lot harder. It's always best to build up that relationship with the bank, show them that, hey, I'm got a savings account, I have a checking account, I'm letting money stack up in your accounts here, making them money essentially, right? And then you'll start getting welcome offers. 6 months is kind of like the new normal. It used to be 3 months, right? After you built the relationship with the bank, 3 months, you can go and apply and get mostly, what you wanted approved. Well, it's a little bit longer now because banks are being a little bit more selective. You can kind of see that from just some of the welcome offers that are out there right now. They're just not the best, right? But overall, 2 to 4 installment loans, build those strategically with grade A banks. Same thing on the credit cards. We don't really want to fill our profile up with Experian Boost or Rent Reporters because in all honesty, I used to like rent reporting companies because I'm like, yeah, cool. It'll give someone 24 months of history. That's great. But what it does is it actually adds another bill to their credit report. So if you say that your rent is $3,000 a month and you add that to your credit report, wherever you apply is going to see, oh, they've got a $3,000 monthly rental obligation that they're responsible for, but they only put that they have $800 in rent on the application. That can bring up some red flags for banks, okay? So less is more, especially because banks don't care that you pay rent, right? It's really just to get someone some history, but it's not something that they're going to look at as comparable credit. It just adds another bill to your credit profile. So it's just not recommended from me at this point. But, like I said, it has helped people boost up their credit report just because of the history that it adds. So if you need it, like you don't have much and you do have a source where you can get 24 months of rental payments, I would say at most, I would do a rental payment for maybe like $600 a month because again, they're going to calculate that as a monthly bill that you have that you're responsible for paying. And then last but not least is going to be your hard inquiries, aka all of your new accounts. This is 10% of your credit score as well. And you can see here only with 3 inquiries, which is not a lot at all, it's still saying that it's fair. So you can see how sensitive this section is. And this also accounts for like the new accounts that you have recently established. So if you've opened maybe 3 or 4 new accounts in the last 12 months, that is going to affect this area. So you don't want to open up too many new accounts in the last 12 months because it is going to affect not only your history, which is 15%, but the amount of new stuff that you have reporting to your credit. So if you are going to be what I call like doing a funding sequence and applying for new credit, you want to try to do it all at the same time. So if you plan to open like 4 credit cards because you're like, hey, I bought these Tradelines and I'm going to apply for, these 9 places, but maybe I'm only expecting to get like maybe 4 or 5 cards out of this whole funding sequence. That's fine, but do it at the same exact time so you can allow all of those accounts to age side by side and not affect you. Because if you open like 3 to 5 accounts, that is going to ding your credit initially because you're going to have all these brand new accounts popping open, but you're also going to have to wait probably closer to like 12 months before you apply for anything. Because if you open up 5 accounts or 4 accounts and then just wait 6 months, that's still a big risk for a lot of banks because they're like, why do you need this? You just got, a bunch of stuff. So you do have to kind of be strategic about things. If you were going after different types of credit, maybe you got, 4 or 5 credit cards and then 6 months down the road, you needed to get an auto loan. That's a different story because, auto loans are collateral based and a different type of credit trade line, essentially. Even an installment loan, you can go after that. But as far as revolving credit accounts, probably want to wait at least 12 months so you can just show that you have, never missed a payment, you've managed these accounts properly, they're not all maxed out, so on and so forth. Yes, also, like Alan said, the 524 rule with Chase, especially, they are a big 524 rule bank, meaning if you have opened up more than 5 revolving accounts, and sometimes they just do accounts, right? 5 new accounts in the last 24 months, they will deny you. Okay. Chase is very sensitive to new accounts. And I'm starting to see this trend quite often with other banks and financial institutions where they are very sensitive to accounts like that are less than 6 months old. I've had people that have had denials because of them, a lot of denials from Lightstream because I see that a lot actually where they say you have too many recent opened accounts or too many new accounts, right? And then I'll look at their credit report and they have like 3 to 4 new accounts in the last 6 months, and none of them have 6 months of payments reported on them. So banks are really starting to tighten up on that. So that this is why I give you guys this information so you can plan accordingly and, maximize your approvals. Best to maximize with the relationships, like I said, with the banks. So if you plan to get funding with, say, SoFi, probably best that you just open up a bank account, set up a small direct deposit. Doesn't need to be anything crazy like I would do with the credit unions, because my credit unions rules are like 5 or more accounts with them to really build up that relationship with them and build up your internal scoring with them. Like with Navy Federal, they have that internal scoring system. So the more banking products that you have, the higher that score is going to be. The more positive stuff you do, the higher that score is going to be. Soon as you get an overdraft, that score is going to drop significantly. And that's why you'll see a lot of people with, bad credit, as they may say, getting approved with places like Navy Federal because they have worked so great at that internal score with Navy Federal. So they're like, yeah, you have great internal records with us. We'll approve you, right? And they may only have, 600 credit score or low 600 credit score, which is totally normal for Navy Federal because it's all about that internal data in that relationship that you've built with them. But like SoFi, they're probably more of like a tech AI type of company. You don't really see too many like SoFi branches. They're more of like an online. They're popular at the same time, but they're a different type of banking. So you really just need a simple checking account, savings account. Let the direct deposit do its job. If you have a direct deposit, it's, great to be able to break that up and spread the wealth with all these different relationships that you're building. So you can do like 10% at SoFi, 25% here, 10% there, and have the bulk of it go into your bank account that you use the most. But spread those funds around, or you can even do a smaller percentage if you're like, hey, I need the bulk of my money to go, into this account for bills. All right, great. We'll have 5% go here, 5% go here. Spread some percentage around because that's also going to help you save money, right? We have to get into the habit of paying ourselves first. And with these little accounts that we have everywhere else, we'll have the debit card, but we don't carry the debit card in our wallet. In fact, we leave it at home, we leave that debit card locked, and we just let that money stack, right? So in the event that emergency does happen, you've got a little stash put away, and you can, keep those funds in some sort of like savings or high yield savings account to make you a little bit of extra funds. But you won't even miss it. If you have, 80% of your check going into your main account, and then say, 4 other accounts get 5%, right? Just think of that like, hey, taxes took that money. All right. That money's not available to me anymore. But yet every time you get paid, it's just stacking and stacking and stacking. Okay. But yeah, we got to build up those relationships with the banks and focus on these factors right here. Payment history, everything got to be on auto pay. All right. Credit card usage, keep them low. We don't need balances on all cards. In fact, when you're going after funding, you want to use the all but one rule. Only want to have a balance on one card. And generally, I like that card to be, the highest limit one that you have. You can even do a balance transfer from all the other cards to that one card. So you just have a balance on one. No derogatory marks, right? No collections, no charge-offs, okay? No deficiencies with balances. If you do have any balances that you owe and you've already tried to dispute them to get them off, probably a good time to think about settlement options, especially with the charge-offs, right? Third-party collections are a lot easier to get off, even if it takes a couple months. Medical collections, those are a lot easier to get off, but original creditors, if they are not going to discharge the debt and issue you a 1099-C, which they absolutely do not have to do, okay, then, I would probably just think about some settlement options with them just to get it done if it's an affordable amount for you. If it's not, just keep on disputing it, and hopefully, it will eventually go away, so that way you can be able to, have one less thing that's affecting you in a negative manner, and eventually get all the, negative off and continue to build those positives, because people have to think too, you have to add more positive than negative. So if you have, say, 5 negative items on your credit report, you need at least 5 positive reporting accounts on your credit report. And every month you'll probably knock one of those 5 down, and every month go up on the positive, right? So eventually you have more positive on-time monthly payments that are literally just feeding your credit score what it needs to grow and blossom, okay? And then the credit age, this one's tough because obviously it just takes time. Or you can fast track it like what a lot of people do with adding authorized user trade lines. Authorized user trade lines are great to increase your overall credit age and reduce your credit utilization. So I recently had a client, and he makes good money. He has good data points. Everything is good except for his credit card usage. And it's at like 98%. So we added, I think it was like either 3 or 4 authorized user trade lines to be able to bring his overall utilization down below 30%. And then he's going to go ahead and apply for a debt consolidation loan with one of his credit unions, DCU, because he has a long, good standing relationship with them. And he said that they've approved him for a lot in the past. And as long as we get his credit score up, which, that will do it. That's the only thing that's affecting him. He should be able to get a debt consolidation loan and pay off all his credit cards, so that way he's just paying on the loan and get himself out of debt. And, he's also got an asset, so he can do an asset loan on a vehicle. There are lending institutions out there that kind of focus on more of like that collateral-based loan. And I actually have someone in the community, I'm not sure if they're on the call, but I know him and a couple of their friends had gotten those type of loans. So I'll have to ask them who they got those loans from and if they would recommend them, because I know sometimes the interest rates can be kind of high on them. So that's why if it's so important to have those relationships with the credit unions, because you're going to get a much better deal. But, in the event that the credit unions won't, do it, then you got to have some backup options. Catherine, let's see. So you've got paid in full Citibank collection. 2 weeks later, it was updated to a charge off with a zero balance. How do I fight this? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a great question. Okay, let me finish up these credit factors and then I'll get to your question for sure, because that's a great question. So credit age, that's 15%. And then total accounts, mixture. Just make sure, again, 4 to 6 solid cards, 2 to 4 installment loans, hard inquiries. As long as you have less than 5, you don't want to have a lot in the last 12 months inquiries, even though they're only like 10% of your credit score. A lot of places deny you when you have too many inquiries. And while though, if you're shopping for like an auto, they give you a shopping period. I believe it's like a 2-week shopping period where if you have a bunch of inquiries during that shopping period, it's not supposed to affect your credit score. But I mean, that's kind of like a lie, because at the same time, yes, it doesn't affect your score, but you're going to constantly get denied, because when lenders look at your profile and you have, 20 inquiries, they're going to say that you have too many recent inquiries. So they don't look at it that same, unfortunately. The score and the data points are kind of like, in my opinion, your score is not as important as these credit factors are. Because if you focus on the credit factors, no matter what score you look at, whether it's a Vantage or a FICO, your score is going to be really high. Like, for example, with these credit factors, I'm going to see what my actual score is, because again, I don't focus on my score. I just focus on the data, because at the end of the day, that's what's most important, are these data factors. If you can follow these data factors and really get serious about these data factors, your credit score will follow. All right. I can't log into Credit Karma for some reason. I don't know why I'm logged out, but I want to say this was, when I took the screenshot, I want to say it was like a 790 credit score. So pretty high. Again, my credit score just dropped because I had that PinFed account that closed. And then I had 2 accounts in 2025 that transferred. So I had the PayPal, MasterCard, or actually a PayPal line of credit that transferred to a MasterCard. And then I had the GM card from Goldman Sachs that transferred to Barclays. So those had some good history, and they unfortunately transferred. So it was a brand new account. All right, so let's get to Catherine's question here. So you have a paid in full Citibank collection. 2 weeks later, it was updated to a charge off. That's so weird, with a zero balance. How do I fight before getting a trade line? Okay, and it's only showing on TransUnion. That is a weird situation. So when you have this type of situation where, okay, Citibank was the original creditor, and then for whatever reason, maybe Citibank sold that amount to like a collection agency. Only one place can legally report a balance. Okay. So if the third party collection is reporting a balance, then Citibank has to report it at a 0. And it looks like you paid it and then it became a collection. Never left Citi. Okay. Are you able to come off mute so I can ask you some questions? Because this is a unique situation and I've got a few questions. Okay. Hi,
cool. Can you
Catherine.
hear me?
Yes, I
Hi.
sure can. So
Okay.
yeah, explain what happened here, because this is interesting.
Okay. It was a secure card, went bad maybe in 22. This 2025, I decided, okay, it would never go away with all the letters, yada, yada, yada. Went ahead, paid it in full. They showed on my Credit Karma that it improved. The score went up on my TransUnion. 2 weeks later, it was marked as charged off. When I called TransUnion to see why would you charge off $0, or why would this have been updated to a charge off when it had been paid in full? Again, like you said the other night, that standard verified letter. So I didn't know what my next step was, because I'm wanting to do the 40,000 Amex card because I basically have no credit cards. I'm close to paying off my car. So my credit is basically naked. I don't have
Right.
anything on my credit, but
Yeah.
I don't want to get declined for credit cards because they're still going to see this recent charge off, even though it
Mm-hmm.
originally was paid in full. So I didn't know what the next step was with that.
Yeah, so that's a very unique situation. So here's what I would do. I
Mhm.
would get a letter from Citibank saying that, this account is paid in full when
Mhm.
it was paid, right? So that
Mhm.
way you can send that letter to TransUnion and say, look, this is clearly an error. I have supplied you with a letter from Citibank saying that this account was paid in full on this date. So it's impossible for it to be reported as a charge off. So I am asking for you to delete this inaccurate reporting
Mhm.
immediately
Okay.
and stay on
Okay.
top of them about that. Now, what I would do with TransUnion, because they can be difficult to work
Oh
with,
gosh. Yeah.
I would go to their online system, which is service.transunion.com.
Mhm.
This is their like online dispute portal. And as
Okay.
long as you don't have, I think I have something weird. Okay, no, it's going there. Okay. I don't know why it didn't take us to the correct place, but it's basically like their online disputing system. And
Okay.
it's free. You don't have to pay for credit monitoring with them or anything like that. But
Okay.
you want to be able to upload that letter online so you can ensure
Mm.
that they get it quicker.
Okay.
Once you upload it online, because they have like a section where it says, upload supporting documents. That's where
Okay.
you're going to upload like the letter from Citibank. Maybe if you draft up a letter yourself and say, this is the problem, and this is the solution that I want to this, because right now you are violating the FCRA by reporting
Mhm.
inaccurate information.
Information. That's what I
Hmm.
thought. I didn't know the proper codes for it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we were just talking about that actually, and I have it inside of this guide, and I put this guide inside of the ebooks inside the community, and this is a really long guide, but at the very end of this guide, it
Mhm.
talks about the credit reporting laws. So the FCRA essentially. And 15 USC code 1681 is the area that you want to focus on, because
Okay.
that covers basically like the reinvestigation process. They're like required to report accurate information, and if they did verify this with such bank, who did they verify it with? How did they
Mhm.
verify it? Because I know for a fact that the credit bureaus don't make outbound phone calls. So
Mhm.
how would they call someone to verify it? They haven't, basically.
Okay. I
So
see.
that's the section that you want to use on them, is that 1681I, because
Mhm.
they are required to report accurate information. And a
Okay.
lot of times they don't, because they're using that eOscar system to just try to communicate something that it obviously cannot be communicated like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I knew there was no full investigation because I got that back in like 2 weeks
Right.
after the so-called investigation. Okay.
Right. And you can even state, some of the information under 1681, like, how did you verify this? Who did you verify it
Okay.
with? Like,
Okay.
how did you get this information verified exactly, if you're saying that you verified it? Because I am supplying you with a letter from Citibank stating otherwise, stating that I
Okay.
paid this account to zero on this date. So there's
Okay.
no way that this could have gone to, a charge off or, whatever on the date that you have it on. And I would take a screenshot of
Mm.
your report with them and,
Okay.
circle, this date is completely invalid because this account was paid, to zero on this date, according to Citibank,
Mm-hmm.
and, really get aggressive with them. So upload it through their online disputing system. And then about 24 hours later, call them and say, hey, I need to speak with the manager. I always like to call them as if you're like a credit reporting customer, like you pay them for credit reports, because you'll get a real you'll get a real person on the phone to provide customer service, because you're a customer, right? Once you get them on the phone, say, hey, can you transfer me to the fraud department? And once you verify that you're in the fraud department, say, hey, I need to speak with a manager. Say, look, I spoke to someone the other day and I explained my situation. I've uploaded everything to your online portal because you are reporting some inaccurate and invalid information on my credit report. And for some reason, I don't know if it's the computer system, but it just seems like it's not getting corrected. And I want to make sure that we get this corrected before I have to pursue litigation.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good.
And you can chat with them on their website as well. I've actually done this with them, and I swear, I don't know if it helped or anything, but I was telling the chat agent the same thing that I basically told you. I want to give you guys the opportunity to resolve this issue and remove this, unvalidated credit trade line from my credit report. And I swear, like the next day it was gone,
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And he told me like, oh, well, we can't do anything right now about it. And this was all via like their little chat. And I would recommend doing it like during normal business hours, because sometimes they don't have like their live chat people open. But I swear like that was the reason, because I sure did. And everything's recorded in the chat as well. So
Correct.
I would try that and see if that can help you as well. But get that supporting documentation. See if Citibank can send you a letter via like email or through your client portal, or however they can get it to you electronically, just like stating that the account is paid in full and when that account was paid in full.
Okay. I definitely will. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it's
Truly.
super frustrating the way that these credit bureaus report things, because it's like sometimes they'll get an updated, piece of information, and then they'll just never change it. They'll never update it. It's just weird. And
That
yeah, sometimes they just act like they can't help you,
Yeah. That was such a punch in the gut, because I worked on my own credit all of last year to make sure that by the end of the year I'd be able to start getting some trade lines and getting some new credit. And for that to happen within a two-week period, I was like, what is going on? And I called them like 3 times and just got nowhere with them. So this I will definitely do. I'll definitely do.
Yeah, they need some sort of supporting documentation. And that's the best way to do it, is to have that letter directly from Citi verifying, when that payment was made and that the account is zero balance, as of that day, whatever they can to put together to be as detailed as possible to make it clear that you paid on this date, which brought the account to a zero balance.
Okay. I'll definitely get online with both of them tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining tonight.
Okay.
iPhone had a question. Do you assist students with loans and credit card applications during? Yes, I do. So I actually had a call with someone today and I forgot about it because I tried to squeeze them in. So, yes, that is something that we can do. I do not charge a funding fee or anything like that. People book a call with me and then we can go through the application together. So that way you're confident in what you're doing. And if for some reason you are denied after that, we have to understand why you are denied, okay? Because we have to fix reason 1 and reason 2. Usually the rest of the reasons that they give you are just a bunch of malarkey and they just have to put something there. but a lot of times it's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Because when you're denied on the personal side, they will send you a letter saying, you applied for this on this date. You were denied with a credit score of this from this bureau. And here are the reasons why we denied you, right? And it's usually about 5 different reasons why you were denied. Only the top 2, possibly the top 1 is like the main reason why. So 1 and 2 are what we have to focus on to fix everything. But, we'll also look at your credit report to make sure that you've maximized all of the data, because when you are applying for funding, it's really important that we maximize all of these data points that we talked about earlier and ensure that they have been updated on your credit report. Not just Credit Karma, because a lot of things will update a lot quicker with Credit Karma than they will with, say, your FICO scores or your FICO reports. And, when banks are pulling your credit report, they're using a FICO model, right? So we want to make sure that that data has actually updated on your FICO credit reports that they are going to be pulling from, and not just Credit Karma. So focusing on, card balances, making sure that we have, all the cards at 0, all but 1, maybe 2, if you have like 6 credit cards, then, 2 could have a balance, but the all but 1 is been the major success rate for a lot of my clients and even myself as well. I think I probably have closer to like 20 credit cards, and I still try to only have a balance on maybe 2 or 3. Obviously, if you have more credit cards, like you can hold a little bit more of a balance, but when you only have a few, you really just want to have a balance on maybe 1 card. And then we can see what other funding you want to go after, whether it's like a personal loan, what relationships you have with current banks, because that's a contributing factor as well. If you already have an existing relationship with, say, like Wells Fargo or Chase or Bank of America, well, let's take a peek at what they have going on, because generally speaking, when you already have an existing relationship with a bank, it's usually a lot easier to get you approved with that bank since you have a relationship with them. And that's why a lot of car dealerships, like when you tell them who you bank with, they'll kind of like ask you kind of, not really saying why they're asking you, but like, who do you bank with? Like, oh, Bank of America. They're going to run your application with them like first thing, because they can generally get approvals from the banks that you either have had a relationship with in the past or have a current relationship with. So that's going to be, somewhat important. But if you have good credit, you don't necessarily have to have that relationship. You just want to make sure that all of the data factors are, as close to clean as possible, as close to perfect as possible, so we can maximize your approvals and, get you what you need to, get with as far as like credit cards go, loans go, and making sure that we're consistent with all of the data that we put on the application. So we got to get, a funding ID card established as far as, this is the name, address, date of when I've been at this address, the employment records, all of this stuff, what my salary is. We're not going to include a bunch of extra stuff on the application, because that just complicates things and then makes them want to ask us for more documents. So when we're doing funding applications, we want to just keep it simple. You are full-time employed, okay? Who your employer is, well, if you have an employer, use that one, obviously. But if you're self-employed, we never use the word self-employed. You're full-time, you're employed, and then your business is going to be your employer, right? And we'll go that route. And you always want to make sure that you have documented like your start date of your employment, what your title is, if you are going with director or operations manager. Either one of those titles is solid, because they both have that like higher pay grade attached to them as well. So you just want to stick with it and make it consistent. And then, eventually that will be reported onto your credit report as well. So you don't want a bunch of different variations on your credit report, like self-employed and then, 1099. It's like, no, 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 no. But putting all that together and just making sure that we're consistent with the salary, okay? And when I tell people about consistency with salary, it's based on the area that you are in, like your zip code. What is your average salary for your zip code? Because you want to stick within those ranges. You don't want to stick out and cause a red flag to be flown because they're like, oh, you're saying 180,000 for your income, but the average household income in this zip code is only, 95,000. Well, let's just check up on that and ask for verification, right? So we want to fly under the radar, especially when you don't have the supporting documents, associated. I tell people it's okay to fluff things a little bit, but if you're fluffing, you got to fly low, okay? Because you don't want them to ask for anything that is just gonna basically, cancel out the deal. So yes, I can certainly help you, but you got to understand it's a process. Sometimes people aren't always ready to apply for things during our first phone call because when we go over the data, there's some tweaks that need to be made. Sometimes I'll have people that, did a bunch of credit builders like Credit Strong and some of these other places. And it's better when we're going after funding, especially if someone has like a bunch of debt from these credit builders, just to close those out because then the debt goes away, right? Because at the end of the day, the banks aren't going to look at that like, oh, that's just a credit builder account. They're going to see, oh, they owe Austin Capital $10,000, but they're asking us for $10,000. How are they going to pay us both? So sometimes, there's certain recommendations that I'll make to someone like, hey, let's just close out this, Credit Strong. So that way the balance goes along with it. So it can be a process, but absolutely we'll get you there and make it happen. Might need to get some trade lines. That's a really important part of it. I think it was last call, or maybe it was in December, where Greg came on and shared one of his client stories. He was working with a younger gentleman and he didn't really have much credit built up. I guess he had like a very thin credit profile because he was very young. So he applied for Lightstream for him, or they applied together, I guess. And that was in October and his client was denied. And then the main reason for his denial, the number one reason was no revolving accounts. Because again, he didn't have a bunch of trade lines on his credit report. Well, Greg wasn't a huge believer of authorized user trade lines, but I was like, dude, just try it. They're saying no revolving accounts, but I don't think their AI system's going to look that deep to see whether it's an authorized user or not. So we added him to an authorized user trade line. His credit score went up and then they reapplied in December. So it was just 2 months and they got approved for $40,000 from Lightstream with no documents required. So that was a pretty good win. No documents, still kind of flying under the radar, but he made sure that the data was consistent. And, when that happens, there's no real reason for them to request things. They want to lend out money. They want to get the deal done. Requesting all these documents just holds stuff up. So they were able to get that and the money was deposited into his checking account within a couple days. And same thing when I went through SoFi for $35,000. They didn't ask me for any documents and I didn't want to be too greedy and ask for 50,000, so I just stuck with 35 and the money was in my account within a couple days. So, and that helped me get my backyard done because when the one downside about, buying a brand new build is they don't do the backyards. You have to do the backyards. And I have a huge backyard that was just mud. And that's just not going to work. I was like, So we're actually in the process now of redoing everything, or building everything, I should say, concrete, gravel. I got pet turf put back there, water system, the whole nine. So that's nice. Any other questions before we wrap it up tonight, guys? Because I'll tell you, these credit factors, like when I first started learning about credit, no one had ever gone over these things with me. Obviously we're not taught this information, and sometimes people may feel embarrassed that they don't know this information, but you don't know what you don't know. The banks don't want to share this information with people. For some stupid reason, credit is not included in our educational system, but yet at 18, we're expected to move out, get an apartment, get a car. How are we going to do all that without credit? So if you do have children, it's important that you do this for them, so that way you can add them as an authorized user onto your credit card, and they can qualify for things, at a fairly young age. Once they pass 21, shoot, they could buy a house, they could do a lot. So this is not just for you, but it's for your generational wealth. Think about if you can get your kids or, your family members to be able to purchase assets like homes at such a young age and just collect those properties. It's solid. It's solid right there. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for joining, everyone. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm working on getting the last 2 recorded calls edited, and then I'll put them up inside of the classroom section. So if you go into the credit community, you want to head over to the classroom section, and this ebook that I was going over tonight, just in those data points, is actually under ebooks, and it's under the credit secrets. If you go into the main community page, I have all of the replays pinned at the very top. So you just have to click into this posting, click on see more, and you'll see all of the different replays. I should have the ones from December ready. They take a little bit longer when we're doing like Credit Repair Cloud and like someone's credit report, because my editor has to blur out all of their personal information, account data, like all that stuff. So those ones take a little bit longer, but I should have everything else up in the next week or so. So that way you guys can rewatch them, learn from them. But there's already so much that you guys have in the classroom section. You definitely want to check it out and go to the sections that, are going to be more, into what you're working on right now, whether that's, credit, personal credit, building credit, banks, credit repair business. There's so much business credit, ebooks. There's digital products in here that you can create inside of your own Canva account. Personal funding, business setup. There's so much in here. We've had a lot of master classes in here, and stuff that you can really learn from. I will say the only thing that's kind of changed is the credit card liquidation company. So I had a company that was liquidating credit cards, but they are changing over to a new platform right now. And I was just talking to them today, so they should be done in like 2 weeks. So I'm going to actually have to take out the liquidation link because it's no longer working. But I'll update it when they are ready. And if you want to check it out, you certainly can. But just know it's always going to have a fee associated, not a fee from me, but that company. Another way that you can easily liquidate your credit card, little risky, but sending yourself an invoice and then just paying your invoice with your credit card. If you have like a merchant account like Square or Stripe or even PayPal, you can do that. But of course, you're going to have a small percentage. And then you've got, the most common, which is like manufacturer spending, where you can go buy things from like Costco and then return it to your debit card, and then you don't have a fee there. So it kind of, depends on, what you're trying to do. Navy Federal, like I told you guys on the last call, they have canceled their ability to load your prepaid debit cards with a credit card. You used to be able to load that prepaid Go card with Navy Federal, which is their prepaid debit card, with a Navy Federal credit card, but they canceled it last month. So, like within the last 30 days, they changed it and said, nope, no more. You can no longer load the card with a credit card, which kind of sucks because, that was actually helping a lot of people be able to, get access to money that they could do for a pledge loan and, different things. But, sometimes things change. And at the end of the day, it was because it was causing a problem, obviously, right? But nonetheless, spend some time in the community, guys. We have our next call coming up this Friday. So if you do need to book a call with me between then and now, the book a call button is right here. And I'm not so sure that it shows on like the mobile side. I believe it's like on the computer side of things. But if you need help, feel free to book a one-on-one call. You can always find my schedule too in the welcome to the community page. Just click at the very top, and that will allow you to book a one-on-one with me so we can go over your situation, take a deeper dive into your credit factors and see, what the good options would be for you, and, if Tradelines would be a good solution for you or not. But nonetheless, guys, I want to thank you guys all for being here, being a part of the community. I can't wait to see all your guys' results. This is kind of what keeps me going, is seeing and hearing all of your stories. So it's super empowering to me, and I just love to hear it. So can't wait to see you guys all on Friday, and I'll see you then. Yes, thank you guys so much for being here. Absolutely, Catherine. You're going to get them. I'll tell you, it just takes time. But once we get on that path, I'll tell you, it's addicting. Like, I'm constantly looking at my credit reports and looking at the numbers go up. And it's really life changing, I'll tell you, because I, at one time was challenged with credit too. And it was tough. And it's just becoming harder and harder. So now is definitely the time to take it serious and, change that mindset and have that healthy, happy relationship with credit that, is there. Credit is such a wonderful tool if used properly. But, tools can also be damaging and can hurt. So we just have to have that good relationship, good mindset, and stay on track with it, because I know we're all so used to instant gratification, and that's not something that is going to happen all the time with credit. There's nothing instant about it. It takes time, and we live in such a fast-paced world that, God, if something takes longer than 60 seconds, it just doesn't work, right? Well, credit is very old school, and it has, you have to be committed to the process. Just like with weight loss or anything that takes time, you've got to be committed to the process. But, Xavier had explained, you have to understand the process. You have to understand what's expected of you, right? And as long as you understand the credit factors and these 6 categories, this is the focal point. These are the goals, knocking them down one by one and getting all of these factors into a positive place. All right, guys. Thank you guys for being here, and I'll see you guys all on Friday. Take care, everyone. Bye.